They stormed into my office by the lake with rifles up and voices raised, yelling about federal law like they were auditioning for a bad action movie. I know it sounds insane, but there I was, face to face with Pine Lake HOA President Patricia Blackwood's version of the law, a crew of so-called officers who looked more like extras than cops. In her mind, she was about to wipe out the last obstacle standing between her and absolute control. What Patricia didn't know, what she never could have guessed, was that she'd just kicked in the door on a federal task force meeting, and within that single chaotic hour, her little HOA fiefdom would start to unravel. Now, let me back up a sec, because if you've never watched a Karen bury her own empire with her own hands, you're in for a treat. That morning, the lake was all glass and gold, sunrise rippling across the water, and for a minute, I was just Jake Morrison, sipping my coffee on the dock, remembering my old man and thinking about everything we'd lost. My dad, Henry, wasn't just a parent. He was the backbone of this land, taught me to fight for every inch of it. 6 months after he died, that wound was still raw, but the world keeps moving. You know what I mean? Inside, we were midway through Operation Pine Lake, surrounded by files, laptops, and the kind of high-stakes talk that makes your blood pressure rise. Agent Sarah Chun, my old partner from my FBI days, was presenting a warrant package thick enough to choke a horse. Agent Rodriguez was combing through my dad's encrypted files, a treasure trove of digital evidence he'd been building for 15 years. We were close, so close, to getting enough to bring Patricia down for good. That's when the engines cut through the quiet, doors slammed, and heavy boots crunched over gravel. Instinct kicked in. Something was off. The door exploded inward, and 4 men in mismatched uniforms charged in, assault rifles drawn. Everyone on the ground, they shouted, but the patches on their shoulders were wrong. The badges too shiny. My heart hammered. I caught Agent Chen's eye, and she read my mind. These weren't real cops. She stood up, slow and deliberate, flashing her credentials, voice like ice. FBI. Lower your weapons. You're interfering with a federal investigation. The ringleader stammered, faltering under pressure. Through the window, I could see Patricia pacing beside a black SUV, panic blooming on her face as her plan spun out of control. What she hadn't realized, what no one outside that office could know, was that she'd just staged a fake police raid on a room full of federal agents. She thought she was intimidating some property owner. Instead, she'd just crossed into felony territory, right in front of 5 badges. Agent Chen nodded to the team. Martinez was already taking pictures of their license plates. Thompson had started facial recognition on his tablet. You could feel the fear in the room shifting. While Chen coordinated the arrest, I glanced up at my dad's photo on the wall. Henry Morrison, environmental watchdog and the man who taught me that sometimes doing the right thing means stepping right into the storm. He'd spent his life fighting polluters, crooked companies, and people like Patricia. That legacy was the reason I'd spent nearly a decade with the FBI chasing cybercriminals and laundering schemes. After Dad died, I'd left the bureau, but not for good. I kept my clearance so I could keep digging into his death. Patricia had no clue she'd walked into a federal trap. When the fake cops realized what they were up against, they dropped their weapons. As they were being cuffed outside, Chin pulled me aside and whispered, "Jake, this was the plan all along." That's when it clicked. The FBI had been waiting for Patricia to make her move. She'd stepped right into it. But here's where the story tilts. See, my dad wasn't just gathering evidence. He was hunting criminals with a methodical drive most agents only dream of. His cloud drive was organized like a federal case file. Audio, video, bank records, drone footage, painstaking work, right down to timestamps and cross-referenced names. Patricia thought she was just running a local racket. Turns out, she was laundering millions for Chicago mobsters and using deep-fake technology to frame families and drive them off their land. She even corrupted local officials through blackmail and targeted harassment. I mean, you want to see what organized crime looks like in 2025? It's a woman running an HOA with more resources than a small city. But the biggest gut punch? Dad had uncovered a plan. Patricia's next target was me. According to her files, my accident was supposed to happen within the week. All the evidence was there. Audio of her ordering hits, video of her handing over my daily routines to hired killers. I felt my hands shaking as I realized she'd already killed 7 people in the last 5 years, covering it all up with forged documents and social engineering that would make a spy jealous. But Patricia's reach went higher. My father's final message warned me. She had protection in the federal government. Sure enough, Agent Rodriguez pulled the financials. A deputy U.S. Marshal named Tony Ritchie, taking bribes straight from Patricia's accounts. Every time a witness died or a case got buried, his name was on the file. He even called me. Veiled threats wrapped in official language, trying to scare me off. If you've never had a corrupt federal agent try to strong-arm you off your own property, trust me, it's a special kind of adrenaline. Patricia hit back fast. Within hours, deep fake videos appeared online. Me confessing to crimes I never committed. News crews were at my door. Social media melted down. Even local courts got in on it, with a judge, who turned out to be the police chief's wife, surprise, signing off on bogus injunctions to shut down my consulting office. Agent Chun, ever the professional, locked down security and initiated a full-on federal corruption probe. Now the game was bigger than Pine Lake. It was about the credibility of the justice system. But let's be honest, you don't mess with someone who knows digital forensics better than you. We traced every transaction, mapped every shell company, and tracked every dollar Patricia moved. Then came the drone war, her side sending pro-level surveillance drones to monitor us, our side jamming signals, taking them down, collecting more evidence with every crash into the lake. Soon, the local community turned. Fishermen organized a blockade, trapping Patricia's boat in the lake. Neighbors started sharing their own stories of intimidation and land grabs, using social media to out her entire operation. The walls were closing in. The final showdown? Patricia tried to run, hiring ex-military contractors and planning a midnight escape by private jet. The FBI was ready. On the airstrip, lights flared, agents swarmed, and for a second it felt like we were all extras in a crime movie. But Patricia, ever calculating, had one last card. She demanded to talk to Agent Chun, offering evidence of an assassination plot against a federal judge, my own cousin, Rebecca Morrison, in exchange for immunity. Agent Chun had no choice but to listen. Patricia's files confirmed it. Deputy Marshal Ritchie was set to assassinate Judge Morrison at the request of Chicago mobsters. The Bureau took Patricia's deal, 15 years instead of life, in exchange for full cooperation and enough evidence to take down the Torino crime family, half a dozen federal officials, and clean out the HOA and local government for good. After the dust settled, I didn't go back to the Bureau. Instead, I founded a federal training center on the land my dad protected, teaching new agents how to spot the patterns that almost got us all killed. Patricia, tucked away in witness protection, actually helped bust 3 more syndicates and wrote apology letters to her victims' families. Even her sister turned informant, landing a gig as a social media intelligence analyst. The lake was cleaner, the families got their land back, and the town held real elections for the first time in years. 1 year later, I stood at the same dock, coffee in hand, watching the sun come up over Pine Lake. Agent Chin joined me, smiling. "Your father would be proud," she said. "I think so too. He taught me that justice isn't about revenge. It's about defending the powerless, even when the system is stacked." Patricia learned the hard way. When you fight a family that believes in justice, you're up against more than one stubborn guy. You're up against the full weight of truth, persistence, and a federal badge. If you stuck with me through this story, maybe you felt that same fear, the sense that ordinary people can't win against money and power. But I promise you, persistence matters. Justice matters. If you believe in standing up to corruption, drop a comment, hit like, and share your own story. Because every underdog deserves their day, and sometimes the fight is worth it, even if you're just one person against the whole world.